Hello again, everybody. Welcome to more online racing action from caterhamracer.com. Real Caterham racing in a virtual world, and this is round two of our 2022 Winter Warm. Getting things fired up again once more before we get the proper racing season back underway in just a several weeks' time. We're now into February. We can officially say that next month racing season starts again with all the Championship Series getting ready, because Caterham season for the Caterham Motorsport Brigade won't start until the beginning of April, but of course still some time for these guys to get out there and get them, shake off a bit of race rust in the virtual world before they get out on track for real. So this is once again the knockout format that we've had before in previous events. We've had the four sort of qualifying races where the top three from each race, provided they haven't already qualified in a previous edition, go through into another race. There it is. So we had Silverstone International as our season opener, and it was Will Rossetti, Ryan Hooker and Christian Zaruta, none of which are here tonight, so it means we are guaranteed three more new qualifiers. They went through at the opening rounds at Silverstone this time last week, and there'll be three more that will progress at Cadwell Park tonight. Then next week it will be on the clockwise direction of Knock Hill, which is the original, and some would say correct way around. And then the week after that it will be Snetterton at 300, and that will set in for stone our first 12 qualifiers. Then there'll be a further 6 that will qualify from Croft at the last chance saloon race, and then I can't speak tonight. Bar drivers vote. It will either be Alton Park International or Anglesey Coastal that will decide where the 18-car grid for the grand final takes place and who will be the winner of the 2022 Winter Warmer, which is our 7th season, incredibly, in just over in almost 2 years worth of caterhamracer.com events in the season. Once again, Scott Woodwiss and Chris Hutchinson in the commentary box. Once again, we are into qualifying with about 11 1/4 minutes to go. And Chris, as ever, the first round seems to set the tone in terms of not just the competition and who they want to look out for, but also the intensity of the competition. And I know it's the thing we say year and year and time again, but every single season the competition just gets that little bit closer, a little bit more intense. And again, it's more of the same here in season 7. More drivers stepping up, improving their pace, and ultimately making this an even closer, more exciting field, including, which we'll get onto in a second, to brand new additions. But yeah, Cadwell Park, tight and twisty. This should be pretty intense once again, as it always is in these kinds of races.
Yep, good evening everybody. I have my internet connection sorted this week, so hopefully the stream will be a little bit smoother than it was last week. But you're exactly right. It's exciting to see them all driving this new car. Remember, we're in the new 310R now model on the circuit, and it certainly is quite a lively beast, and some of the action we've been seeing off of stream has been intense, just like it was in real life when we were commentating together towards the end of last year. And like you say, we've got some new names, and we'll go through those so soon, but we've got plenty of common names as well. It's worth pointing out that Rossetti and Christian Zaruta and Ryan Hooker are not here this evening, so it is a straight fight for the top 3 places in the race. Will gain their qualification spot. Oh, of course, subject to any appeals or anything like that, because we do run an official stewards sort of process, just like you would in real life as well, in case there has been someone disgruntled customers, as it were. They do have a right to appeal, and then that will be reviewed, and we sort of will adjust results based on that. But yeah, just as Max Burgess there places his car up into 3rd place, and he is one of our new drivers on the stream. He has been racing with us a little bit in the off-season and in Season 6, which wasn't broadcast. But he is here and putting 3rd place. What a good start.
Yeah, that's the Max Burgess, I think it is. He's also been helping out with the BRSCC, doing a little bit of social media assistance with yours truly, and also with some excellent photography work as well, which has been a massive help. So if it is the same Max, I know he has mentioned as well that he has done some Assetto Corsa Competizione racing as well in a couple of leagues. So good to see him transitioning to the Caterham sim racing side of things, and again showing some pretty decent pace. Only 3/10 off the fastest time set by Jensen Hassler. Another one of our newcomers here, Stephen Henderson, who is from Scotland. Now he races a Caterham-esque kit car. Now I'm really told the name beforehand. It was Silver something. You have to help me out with that one. Silver.
I'll go back to the. Hang on. You've definitely caught me off guard there. Let me see if I can find out. It's a Silver Riot kit car. I don't even know whether that is Caterham-esque. But we'll assume it is. But he's here anyway. He normally races round Knock Hill, so I'm sure he's looking forward to the next round.
if he doesn't progress tonight, I'm sure he'll certainly be looking forward to that, as I'm sure Blair McConaughey as well, because he's also competing tonight. Also, and then we've got Matt Larby as well, who's also making his first appearance of season 7 tonight as well. There is Matt. Now he's got a livery on there which suggests that he sounds, unless I've got it wrong, is he someone who is or is planning to race in real life, or is he simply just a sim racer? Just remind me on that one.
So
Chris.
Matt is signed up for the 2022 Academy season, so he really is in the warm-up to his Academy year. And like you say, he's got this skin assigned to his race car this evening. I believe that's the one he will run in real life, and Magnificent is looking too.
God, I have to say, I've seen some of the liveries, particularly a couple of the DPR ones as well, where there are some quite fantastic looking liveries. There's not much bodywork to work on with the Caterham, but what they have been able to do with some of these designs is absolutely brilliant. We're on board with Matt now, and again, sporting what appears to be the livery that he's in, and certainly that'll be memorable for me when we're also going through the commentary for the real-life Caterham events if he's in the Academy this year. Of course, Cadwell Park will be one of the circuits, I believe, that he will be visiting across the season, so be sure to watch out. This will be some extra little premature track time for him to get used to the circuit as well. Let's jump into how we are with qualifying at the moment. Then 7 minutes to go, and it is Jaroslav Cherny. Well, who else would it be in many cases? There is Jaroslav, ever the quick virtual Caterham race whenever he turns up on the server, and he has blitzed everyone else with a time of 1 minute 39.34. He's gone quicker, in fact, than the time I was about to report. So he's now just over half a second quicker than anyone else. And I think it's simple to say, Chris, just Jaroslav doing Jaroslav things, really. He always does that, turns up, goes quick, and typically tends to be unbeaten.
And that is a quicker time than he did in pre-qualification even, so he is right on the pace. And like you say, whenever he's on the server, he tends to do pretty well. But last time out, we saw him slip back. I don't know if he missed qualifying, but he couldn't make his way back through the field and certainly got caught out in a few issues along the way. And he's been getting a bit of jibing from the other drivers throughout the week, sort of as payback to that. But yep, doing very well. And Jensen Hassler we've also got here in the grey car this evening, again putting in some great performances, and I saw him doing some pre-practice racing earlier, and he looked really under control and excited. Just as I say that, he drops the wheel off the track. But we've got Andrew Parker there now, popping the car up into a second place. So Andrew, he faded quite quickly, got caught up in an issue last week and sort of faded away, but we know how quick he is, and he was second in pre-qualification as well, so I am sure he'll be looking to improve tonight.
Certainly will. Second place is looking good. He is about almost 4.5 tenths off Cherny's time. As you remember as well with Jaroslav Cherny, we talked about before the fact that he and Bonobo in the past have been quite keen getting the skins together and developing the cars. With this new 310R car, and of course we can remind our viewers who weren't here last week, Chris, this new car, of course, Bonobo, along with a couple of our test drives, one of which being Andrew Parker, who's here tonight, Jaroslav, whilst he has been typically one of the two people that's been involved in helping develop these cars, he has had no involvement in developing this new car whatsoever. So the fact that he's done whatever track time he did and then jumped into Silverstone last week and did as well as he did, and now he's immediately some 4.5 tenths up on everyone else, shows that one, he can adapt it pretty quickly, and two, just shows how incredibly well developed this car is, that he can jump into it and be as quick as he is. But at the same time, we know, as we talked about last week, those who weren't here, this car is not as stable as the previous two cars they've run, which is the Academy and the now new spec 420R with those slicks and adaptive suspension that we simulated for the previous season. It's not as grip. It's a little more tail-happy and a bit nervous than the other two cars they're used to.
So what it does, it's got more of a front end, so it actually has more turn in this particular model. It's been set up that way. So we're watching Steve Arnell here, and Steve put in a great chunk of work to help dial in that he drives the 310 in real life. So he was a great option to do that, and the front end turns more, but that does mean the rear end is therefore a little bit more finicky and a little bit more unstable. So you will see some tail out moments, and as we saw last week, Will Rossetti really enjoys that sort of style of racing and really relished it. And other people, in fact, last week I cut to Steve Arnell just as he was having a massive slide. So this tonight he looks a little bit more under control. He's there up in 5th place, so absolutely up there and abouts. And it's worth saying it's Andrew Howard who did all of the physics and sort of side of things with Bonobo on the modelling.
I knew I was going to mix him up with Andrew Parker, so it's Andy Howard and Steve Arnell was, but I knew I was going to mix them up and make that foul. So apologies, Andy, for missing your name there again once more. Andrew Parker, as just noticed, has gone up into second quickest, and he's now split Cherny and Hassler. He's lowered the time now to just under 2 tenths per second, so he's getting a little bit quicker now. There's James Fowler, who His previous Caterham racing experience was racing against both Tom Willis and Blair McConaughey, the three of which, again, reunited in the virtual Caterham world on this grid. And previously they were duking it out for the 2019 Caterham Academy title. Because, of course, then the following season after that, in the Disruptor season, Tom Willis then went ahead and won the Road Sport title. Then McConaughey was second again. And then last year, Tom Willis did a couple of occasional races as a guest driver. But it was Blair McConaughey that went on to win the 270R title and heads into this year upgrade to the full spec of this car. So essentially, the car that he's driving here tonight, which currently has him in 9th on the grid at the moment, to see Tom Willis on track, 11th fastest in qualifying, and just under a second off provisional pole with 2.5 minutes to go. The car that Blair's driving tonight is pretty much as near as makes no difference. Exactly the same specification of the car, there is Blair, that he'll be racing this year. So he really is getting some ultra realistic practice here with the car, essentially that is virtually identical to the one that he will have at his disposal across 2022.
Yeah, and we're going to have several other 310 drivers, I believe, joining us in future rounds. They want to get it dialed in and like I say, get that practice ahead of the new season. And what better way to practice than actually drive the 310R that you're going to be driving this year? And as ever, they are kind of stuck together on track. I was going to say that Tom Willis had the jump on them all, but actually now that in the time that I've taken to sort of come to Blair here, he's gone up into 9th, Fowler in 10th, Tom Willis in 11th. So never ever knowingly split on track, and great job. Also worth calling out Alan Curtis, who's up here on the A grid tonight. He was on a B grid, I believe, last week. I could be misspeaking then. But either way, he has made strides, and he will also be driving his 310R, which is going to look, I'm sure, similar to this, if not exactly like this, going into this season as well.
Indeed, so good to see him up there in 13th place. Which also mentioned, of course, James Petersen is back on the grid as well. He raced last week, I believe that's right there, with some kind of I think it was a fractured ankle he had of some kind of injury to his ankle or his foot last week. Hopefully that's taken some time to heal a bit more since then. He's currently at the moment in 16th fastest, 1.3 seconds up, and so he's probably still learning just this car and second combination a little bit more while still convalescing as well. Blair McConaughey's popped up now to 7th quickest. He was quicker than Tom McEwen, who in turn also set a personal best as well, to only be 0.07 of a second off the Scotsman's time to put him up onto the 4th row of the grid. So less than a minute to go in qualifying. Cherney is still quickest, with Parker in 2nd place. Jensen Hassler 3rd. Chris Skinnercorn's popped up to 4th throughout the session. 5th is now Steve Arnell. 6th is Paul Ferner. Haven't talked much about Paul, but nice to see him back inside the top 10 once again. There is Andrew Parker coming out of the right-hander at Park Corner.
Sorry, Paul.
It happened with you, Steve Arnell, last week. I'll take the blame for Paul Ferner and put the complex curse on him. I did just mention Jensen Hassler as well. He just got off the road too, so we should probably just stay quiet for the whole broadcast and everyone will stay on track. Because we clearly are too much of a curse on the guys on the grid at this point in time. But Jensen Hassler, we'll go through the rest of the grid as it stands right now as we tick down to the last few seconds on there. So it looks though I think that Jensen, well, obviously because of that off, he's not going to improve, so he will stay currently in 3rd. The clock goes to 0. Qualifying is over. Anyone who's currently on a lap is allowed to finish it. But as they come now out through the last couple of corners, there is Andrew Parker. And again, looks like he's all set for the front row. And just to remind once again, it is the top 3 from this race who will go through as an automatic qualifier for the grand final, which will take place at either Alton Park or Anglesey, depending on which circuit the drivers vote to choose for. And of course, we've still got the 2. I don't think Andy Parker needs to do that in the race, otherwise he's not going to get very far. That qualifying spot will not be secure in any sense. And Andy has this trait, unfortunately, sometimes where he has those really good races, particularly in seasons 5 and 6, where he was that good in the race. To a point, and all of a sudden he would have an incident with somebody or make a mistake, and it would just hamper him from getting the spot he needed, which is agonising because we were almost willing him practically to get himself a qualifying spot, and almost every single time he'd trip up or have an issue or drop back because of pace. But Andy's ever enthusiastic in one of these cars, and so it's quite good to see that he's not afraid to get the most out of it, and if that means trying to find the limits of how airborne this car gets.
Yeah, so a unique aspect of this track that it does have that jump if you go too fast or take the wrong line out of that final corner, so they definitely have to be careful of that. But here is the qualifying rundown then, Scott.
Yeah, just a reminder, it's one 25-minute race rather than 2 15-minute races before, so let's run you down how they'll start for tonight's second qualifier for the 2022 caterhamracer.com Winter Warmer, Season 7 of our virtual racing. So Jaroslav Cherney sticks it on pole with a 1 minute 39.184. He is just under 2 tenths up on Andrew Park on the front row alongside him. Then it's Jensen Hassler and Chris Skillicorn on the second row, ahead of Steve Arnell and Paul Fernihoff on row 3. Blair McConaughey ahead alongside Tom McEwing on row 4. And then Blair's Academy teammates in 2019, James Fowler and Tom Willis, will complete the top 10 for tonight's A-Grid. Then it's John Lang and Max Burgess will start his first caterhamracer.com A-Grid race on broadcast, 12th on the grid. It's Mitchell Costas and Alan Curtis. Then Stephen Henderson starts his first race, 15th. Jamie Petersen is 16th, and Matt Larby, also making his 2022 Winter Warmer debut, will start at the back of the grid in 17th place. There is also a B grid, so best of luck to everyone racing on that. But of course, we are focusing, until we switch across to the race session in a few moments' time, over to the race. But we've got 25 minutes of action to see which next 3 drivers are going to move across into the qualifier, into the grand final for season 7. So we know how strong Cherney is. We've seen him dominate at this track before in previous times. The fact we know that Andrew's got definite pace and we'll try and push him as hard as he can, but there is just a feeling that knowing how quick Jaroslav is, unless I'm about to jinx it, I have a feeling this is going to be another one of those times when Jaroslav will get a nice clear start, get himself in front, and once he's got the clear track, we might not see him for the next 25 minutes.
It could well be like that, but equally in this track it encourages some slipstreaming, even in the sim where it's not as powerful as it is in real life. It's really hard to break away. The corners are such that the person behind generally has a good run at you, and in the pre races that we were kind of watching beforehand, that's definitely what was happening. It's worth filling in. Jamie Petersen is definitely struggling with his foot. He's having to he's only got one foot to play with, so he's having to really juggle his pedals to try and work out how he's done it. He's not using a clutch pedal, and that's why we're seeing him slightly further back than we have seen him previously. So it is purely the convalescence there, but we wish him well, and he's doing well to even get here. But yeah, going to be exciting race, and with Chris Skillicorn sticking it up there as well, and Blair McConaughey late. Here come the lights. Who's going to do it?
So 6 red lights above the drivers, 25 minutes of racing for heat number 2 of the 2022 Winter Warmer for caterhamracer.com. Cherney on pole on the right, Parker on alongside them on the left-hand side. Who's going to win the sprint towards Coppice? Red lights are out now, and heat 2 is underway, and as predicted, it's a clean getaway from Cherney on the right-hand side in the bright red Caterham. Parker will slot into second place. Hassler's third, but he's got Chris Skillicorn to his outside as they're turning through the left-hander. Cherney then leads it. He gets the whole shot ahead of Parker. Everyone else appears to have got through, miracle of miracles, without any shenanigans or drama. So, might be famous last words in a moment if someone makes contact. But anyway, through Park Corner, up Park straight towards out of Coppice, and just as I say that, yes, they've made contact behind anyway. So James Fowler's gone around, as has also looks at Larby and Curtis as well. So I was quick to call that one. Immediately, though, on the attack for the outside for the lead goes Andrew Parker. He runs wide on the exit. He'll now get under attack from Hassler. He dips up the inside into Chris Kerr to take second place. And if Andrew's not careful, he might also lose third to Chris Skillicorn as they come up now into the gooseneck for the first time. They turn left and then plunge right and then plunge left down the hill. Watching for the grass on the driver's right-hand side. A little out of shape there behind was Tom McEwing. He's scrapping away with Steve Arnell. Out through Mansfield for the first time. So Cherney leads it then. It's Hassler in second place, Parker third, Skillicorn fourth, and the next group of cars is led by Tom McEwing and Steve Arnell, and a very fast starting Blair McConaughey, who's up in the mix down to 7th place in that leading group. And if he can start to possibly pick his way through on what is a tight and twisty circuit, but it does have its overtaking opportunities, maybe he can work himself into potentially at least a top 5 spot. Yeah,
your prediction of Cherney running away looks like it might have even started to come true, but this front sort of 7-ish cars have broken away from that following pack there. I saw John Lang had a bit of an issue around that first lap as well, a bit after we saw that issue in the distance on the cameras. So I wonder whether that was John Lang and Paul Fernihoff having a little bit of get together. But there's the gaps, I'm sure, will come back together. It looks like at the moment Hassler is a bit of a cork there, and Parker is trying every single which way to get round, but he isn't possible to do it. And he actually, by going wide into the park corner on the previous lap, he caused himself to go off and actually lost that place. So yeah, Jensen Hassler being a defensive driver at the moment, but that is letting Cherney get away.
The level of damage in these races, that's probably the reason why Alan Curtis has made it into the pit lane. He's already hit a bit of a stumbling block on the first lap, but Cherney, who leads it, it's their battle on for second place. Of course, the harder these two fight each other, the easier it is for Cherney to keep on making a break. Parker goes back up the inside, he gets a little bump in the rear from Hassler to say, come on, you might have passed it, but get on with it, put your foot down, otherwise we're going to lose touch to the leader, who's already 2.1 seconds to the good out in front. He also brought Skillicorn and McEwing in the mix as well.
Yeah, and Arnell here just got past Blair McConaughey, so it looks like they're battling to and fro. We often say around this track there's only a few good overtaking opportunities. I mean, Caterham drivers will try everywhere they can, but Park Bend is really the prime opportunity, and then also into turn 1 if you get a good exit. So definitely look up into Park Bend at the top of the corner. We'll call it out next time to sort of let you all know on the stream exactly what corner we're talking about. The rest of it can be a bit follow my leader, as it's, you know, you can see here it's single file. There's nowhere to go.
McEwen just darts up there to have a look as they come into the Hall Bend. This is where the circuit winds and twists its way through the Lincolnshire countryside. They call it the mini Nürburgring of the North for a reason, because it really is like the old school Nordschleife. And there Jensen Hasse then makes the move. He sweeps around the outside into barn corner to get the place from Parker. So Parker now under big pressure from Chris Skillicorn for third place. And so the black and red car darts out to the outside line. They're going to be side by side across into Coppice, which is the left-hander, which as to go up the hill. Parker has the line and track position. He holds on to the place. And just behind, you can see there's McEwen, Arnell and McConaughey in there too, as well as also Tom Willis is in there too in 8th place. He's trying to close back in. He's got 1.7 seconds to make up on this group in front, particularly his old friend Blair McConaughey. Meanwhile, out in front, you can see the red car is Jaroslav Cherny, and in 2 laps, he really is 3.5 seconds to the good. So I think at the moment, it's almost a foregone conclusion that he will hold on. Meanwhile, in the back, just on the right-hand side, you saw there, Steve went a little too eager to get under the brakes there. And he just hit the back of Chris Skillicorn's car, a little out of shape on the rear of that car, and Tom McEwen squeezed through up into 4th place. So a bit of a shuffle around, the top 3 trying to break away a little bit, but for 4th downwards, it's anyone's guess.
And they're desperately trying not to let that top 3 get away, but they can't decide who's best positioned to go and grab that gap back. Yeah, Chris Skillicon here, 2020 Academy, second in green group he was that year, and he was racing some grads racing last year, and he's upgraded his car as well to a 310, so we might well see him in the real grids of Caterham Motorsport and maybe some grad races there as well. So we look forward to seeing him out on track doing that. But yeah, at the moment, coming off worst in that battle, and McEwen, who's sort of he really does put himself in good positions. He's often there at the end of the races, so really good to see him making that progress and making that some consistency count.
Whilst you're looking at that, I can't help but noticing that Andrew Parker doing Andrew Parker things, which is using all the track a little bit more to try and keep up with the car in front. Is in the background, that's Tom Willis going around. He loses it on the back end at barn corner. He was 8th position. He's now lost out to Costas and Lang, and also Henderson. Henderson's done incredibly well. He started 15th on the grid, picked his way through the first corner, the first lap incidents, and managed to get it up into the top 10. So there's still quite a bit to go. We've only passed incredibly 5.5 minutes of racing in this 25-minute encounter, but up into 10th place already. Not a bad effort so far initially for Stephen. If he keeps nice and clean, he can try possibly get himself a top 10 on his first run. And also shout out to this man, James Petersen, with that, despite that injury, despite not running on an auto clutch, up into P11 and keeping his nose clean too. So good effort from these two in 10th and 11th. Really good driving so far. Yeah,
we see that from Petersen quite a lot, don't we? That he actually makes really good starts and consistently pushes on through the pack. So even though he had slightly slower qualification tonight than we expect, he's definitely right back up there and in that midfield contention. See where he gets to by the end of the races. Jensen Hasse really hanging the rear end out. We said it was a bit skittish, and that was real proof there. And Parker's absolutely looking like he wants to get involved, but there is that little gap there from McEwen. So McEwen will probably be looking to try and consolidate and get that back under control.
I think it's McEwen's got a little bit more to worry about now. I guess look at his mirrors and find he's got a quite feisty Chris Skillicorn behind him, as both Hassler and Parker leap over the mountain and sweep into the Hall Bends. There's Blair McConaughey now chasing after Steve Arnell for 6th position. Mitchell Costas has gone up to 8th. Of course, John Lang is now 9th. Stephen Henderson rounds out that top 10. Massive leap over the crest there for Mitchell Costas as he chases after last year's 270R champion in the real world. Did quite a fine job of keeping up with him. There is Mitchell Costas, number 9596, sideways on the exit of barn corner. Jaroslav Cherny sets the new fastest lap of the race. Not surprising, 139.037 to extend his lead further to over 4.5 seconds in what's that, 3 laps, which is quite extraordinary. And now the rest of the top 10, it's Hassler in 2nd place for the moment, half a second ahead of Parker. McEwen 4th, Skillicorn 5th, and it's Arnell in 6th position. Blair McConaughey in 7th place, Mitchell Costas 8th, John Lang 9th, and Stephen Henderson rounds out the top 10. We ride on board with Andrew Parker as he's now staring at the rear of the charcoal grey Jensen Hassler car through the right-hander at Park Corner, over the curve a little bit of a twitch, and now through Chris Evans, this almost never-ending double apex right-hander of Chris Curve. and then you just turn the car right and then quickly flick left and plunge down the hill through the gooseneck. Careful to run wide on the exit, as Hassler does. Perfect example there. And then get it stopped. And then turning in through Mansfield and back on the power again. Back up through the gears. And now up towards the mountain. This is probably the most infamous part of the circuit, because you get this massive climb with this huge leap over the crest. And it's not uncommon with some of the more powerful caterers, particularly in the real world, the 7 UK Championship cars. They can and will get all 4 wheels off the ground. I have to say that a shout out to the regular caterer photographer John Bryant, or Snappy Racers as he's known. He does get some pretty mega shots of those cars going over the crest. If the crest was even half as big as it's half as sharp as it is on that little left-hander at the end of the hall bends towards the hairpin, you get some even more incredible shots of how much air these guys get. But particularly over the mountain in the real world, it is quite a fantastic spot to watch some Caterhams go fully airborne, all 4 wheels off the ground. It is quite a sight.
It's fun to do it as well. I mean, it's like a launch pad going up there, especially like you say in the Caterham 7 UK car with its slick tyres. It absolutely can carry all its speed over there, and yeah, it's quite a fun feeling to bounce over it. Although I'm sure the car's not particularly happy about it, and you certainly have to treat it quite well if you have to be a bit sympathetic at least. But yeah, we saw on board how relentless this track is. Thank you, Andrew, for keeping it between the lines and under control for our on board there. But it just keeps coming at you, and for a modern day, or compared to modern day tracks like Silverstone, like we were on last week, it's so narrow around here. There really is only room for one car. So see, here we go. Blair McConaughey and Mitchell Costa's going side by side through Chris Curve. There's really not much room for one car through there, but Blair does manage to hold on. I think that is holding on for that 7th place, as Arnell's actually gapped him at the moment, and John Lang looking like he's ready to come and play. Yeah,
this is the scrap for 7th, 8th and 9th, as you say. McConaughey just holding on just a little bit, and he has allowed, you're right to point that one out, has allowed Steve Arnell to get away, because he's now trying to try and chase after Tom McEwen and Chris Skelecorn. There goes 4th, 5th and 6th in the foreground. And here comes Blair McConaughey, big lock up from Mitchell Costas. He's all over the back of Blair McConaughey here as they come up through the mountain. Once again, we've only just coming up to past the 10-minute mark in this 25-minute race. There's been so much going on, so many quick battles going on in the mix that it's been almost hard to keep up a little bit. Over the crest of Mitchell Costas. Well, he's off into the barriers a little bit, but that is some of the largest air I've ever seen anyone in these championships at Cadwell, these Caterham racer races at Cadwell Park get. Talk about launch pad. He was a rocket off that thing. Goodness me. Yeah, it doesn't gain you time though, does it, Scott? You've got to be on the ground to be gaining speed. So yeah, that's almost too much. But it is equally when you're trying to race someone else. If you're just slightly off the line, you see what happens. But that gives Blair a bit of a breathing room. It's made John Lang move up a place to 8th place. So well done to John Lang for that. And a bit further back, we're seeing some of the cars that were spinning earlier. They're kind of recovering back through. So we've got Tom Willis here in 12th place, and Paul Fernios has slipped back a bit here, fighting with Larby. So Larby, this year's academy driver, so showing it Paul's not short of some experience on this sim. So the fact that he's actually having a battle with Matt here is great, but also not to forget that we do have some damage simulation on the sim. So it's not the full sort of damage, but nevertheless you can affect the cars. So some of these cars back here might be suffering a little bit of damage. Is still side by side, some great racing going on all the way down this field. Yeah, just to mention with damage, looks like we have lost 2 drivers in this race, James Fowler and Alan Curtis, sadly, so both out of this race early doors. I was going to say, in terms of catching air, I think Mitchell Costa was fully putting his application into the 310R squadron of Caterham Air Force, I think, after that, because that was quite an incredible launch over that crest in towards the hairpin. He's applying to be SpaceX's NASA alternative. No, I like Caterham Air Force better because it's like a new division of Caterham cars now. Love it. And the proper testing ground is quite pretty much here at Cadwell Park. At places like the Mountain, you probably get quite a few people to do that. I might use that in my real life commentary. I don't really use canned lines, but I might use that in the commentary this year to get them leaping over the crest. Andrew Parker losing time there. He was only half a second behind, and now he's 2.5 seconds behind. And Tom McEwen's right back on him. So I think he must have had an issue on that final part of the Hall Bends there. Yeah, and I think it's just, again, Andrew Parker doing Andrew Parker things, I think. So that's not meant to be cruel at all. It's just his typical flamboyant style of trying to do things and look good whilst he's doing it. So he's lost a bit of time too, Jensen, so you can't call him out in his commitment, because he certainly is pushing as hard as possible, but sometimes the flamboyance and the amount that he pushes might not work to his favour. Jensen Hattel also makes the most of all the track in a bit more. He's kicking up a little bit of dust on the exit of Park Corner. now through the long right-hander of Chris Curve. And we've just ticked past half distance in this race. Jaroslav Cherny leads the way, 6.5 seconds to the good in front. Haslett is in second place there with Andrew Parker in third. Tom McEwing chasing him down, not too far away in fourth as Parker misses the apex through Mansfield and loses a little bit more time to McEwing. Chris Skillicorn is there in sixth in the black and red car. Seventh is Blair McConaughey. Sixth is Steve Arnell. Seventh is Blair McConaughey. Mitchell Costas has regained the place that he lost after he went flying at the crest at the end of the Hall bends. He's back up to eighth. John Lang is now ninth. Stephen Henderson, after his early progress, he's stagnated a bit in 10th, but again held the station. There was somebody going. Was that Chris Skillicorn going off? Chris Skillicorn locked up, and I saw the car going off to the left as it was going straight on. So, yeah, it looks like Chris Skillicorn lost time there, going in the middle of the Hall bends, lost the back end of the car at some point, went across the grass. Now he's put himself under massive pressure from Steve Arnell for fifth position now. Jaroslav Cherny dips into the 138 now, 138.954, and the gap continues to go up to 7.1 seconds. So I think very much for the first couple of laps, it was very much a case for Jaroslav of good night, Irene, I'm gone.
He is definitely doing what Will Rossetti did last week, wasn't he? Enjoying that free space and putting in times that no one else can match right now. I was going to say Arnell has been slowly catching. He sort of dispatched with Blair McConaughey. Not easy to do. Disappeared up the road and looked like he was catching this battle for the third place. Don't forget, we have top three tonight will gain their qualification spot. I think he might run out of time, unfortunately, but he definitely looks like the car on the move. And Skillicorn going off there actually probably cost him time in his momentum going forward. But yeah, just go back to Andrew Parker, like you say, never knowingly boring on track, is he? And proudly states that he's got his iRacing D-Class licence, which is pretty much the lowest licence you can get, and his Palmer Sport Driver of the Day back in August 2020. One of his proudest moments, I am sure.
Ouch, that would hurt his pride. Seeing he's on the low, you could get the small dig in. He got his iRacing licence. It's the lowest form you can get, but it's still an iRacing licence. So, God, the ref takes a point away. Goodness me. Anyway, for Blair McConaughey in seventh place, still trying to chase. He's a little bit of no man's land right now. He's 1.7 seconds back, but he's 3.5 ahead of John Lang, who's got back ahead of Mitchell Costas, I should mention. Meanwhile, Tom Willis is on the comeback after he had the earlier spin. He's back into 11th place at the expense of James Petersen. So again, he's doing quite well to keep it on the straight and narrow mostly into 11th place. So that's Tom Willis. I think that was Tom Willis, the second driver to do that, bouncing over the grass, exactly what Chris Skillicorn just did a couple of laps ago. And now he's lost out again as JP Zennis repasses him for 11th place. So Tom Willis made the progress, then made the mistake, and now he's lost all of it again. Has to do it all over again now in the space of a couple of laps when he's got 9.5 minutes to go. Yeah,
he looked like he was making good progress again through, and he'd done all that hard work, but yeah, all for nothing. But yeah, Stephen Henderson continuing on in his 10th place. I thought it was under threat, but he seems to have the sort of rear magnets firing away from him, so he's definitely rejecting all pressure from behind right now. But yeah, it's kind of settled into a bit of a rhythm at the front here, and Andrew does look now he's got enough of a gap there, as long as he doesn't throw it off again, to protect that. We've still got 9 minutes to go, and again, it's just so relentless around here that 9 minutes around here is like, I don't know, it's like a whole race around other tracks.
Careful with the predictions. We just have to do this, and then it'll be fine, because we know what happened before last time we did that. Both me and you making those predictions, so it's never certain until they get to the checkered flag. Here's the closest battle on track, it seems. Then towards the front of the field. This is for 5th and 6th. Chris Skillicorn in the black car with the red stripe and the green piping, and then we've got the sort of mosaic, sort of probably orange, but orange sort of mosaic liveried car of Steve Arnell. It's been a typical livery of his ever since he started, pretty much, and that car continues to be one of the more noticeable cars in the field. They'll leap over the crest. And McConaughey also taking the optimal line through there, and he's trying to close that gap back in as well. It was 1.7, come down to about 1.5 now, so he's keeping it roughly static, if not just chipping away by a tenth or two bit by bit. So he's got a little bit of time to try and close that in. But if he's going to try and close it, he's going to have to do so by a little bit quicker. Here's Mitchell Costas after his flying moment earlier on. He's still in 9th place, on board with Mitchell, as we go for a ride here, chasing after the purple and blue machine in front, and turning their way through the left-hander at Coppice, and now to the double apex of Charlie's, and then he'll go up the Park straight and towards Park Corner for another time. So he's now in the tow. Now, remember, for those who were watching before, we always talk about the magic half a second, and that means in Assetto Corsa with these cars, you need to be within a half a second to get some kind of a tow. He's within that now. drafts behind him up the hill into Park Corner. Gets close. It's a good run through the right-hander. Now again through Chris Kerr, he'll start to just hug the inside line. Getting another good run, and John Lang again just a little bit just wayward there through Chris Kerr. They have to come back into the gooseneck. Mitchell Costa's all over as they come through. Lang again wide over the grass. Costa's chance to get up the inside. Had a look, he put himself into Lang's mirror, but couldn't quite get it done. Lang misses the apex again through Mansfield. It's quite odd. It's one like to call he's putting his car in all the wrong places and all the right times at the moment. But Costa's now put his car in the right place at the right time here through the inside line. Or has he? Because John Lang's done it again. And once more, John Lang, despite again being in the wrong place, he's in the wrong place at the right time. Went around the outside and held on, and he must be frustrating the heck out of Mitchell Costas right now.
Brilliant show of defensive driving there, wasn't it? When we thought it was all done, it wasn't. He is just making sure that his car is in the right place to defend. And round here, this is one of the only tracks in a Caterham it's narrow enough and tight enough that you can do that. And he's doing a very good job. There was nothing untoward there. He was, he has his right to his track as well. And we saw Mitchell taking, he lost this place due to that sort of, flight, shall we say, off of that final corner. So he must be kicking himself now because he is a bit stuck.
And if he's not careful, he might lose even more time to the cars behind. Here's Chris Skillicorn, who is still chasing after Steve Arnell. But there's been a switch around now, so Steve Arnell in front of Chris Skillicorn. And Blair McConaughey just keeping a watching brief. He is still he's less than a second now, so he's got that. It's the battling between these two in front of him. Certainly helped him out to close that gap, and he's still got 5 3/4 minutes to bring it in enough to try and become a factor and possibly even secure a top 5 position if he can pick his way around both Skillicorn and Arnell in quick succession. As we see further back, Tom Willis has managed to repass JP Dennis, but look at it when you cut back in there, Chris. It didn't look like it was that straightforward.
No, there was definitely some grass and dust involved, wasn't there? But he is ahead going through and down into Mansfield, and it looks like as long as he can defend, which he has done down here. Jamie looking down the inside very late on the brakes. Did lock up a bit, but that does cost him a little bit of time on the exit. But you have to take opportunistic moves around this track. It's not like other tracks where you can just line up a sort of overtake. And the only chance you can do that is up into Park Bend, and that's why we do see so many changes there. But everywhere else, it has to be an opportunistic move, and is always a bit of a risk, especially when you've only got one foot that's actually working. Again, Arnell moving up into, I think he's back behind again, so something's happened there that's closed these three up.
I was going to mention, just when you finished the point there, I was going to mention after initially agreeing with it, that there's been a change again for them, and they're going to be side by side. They make wheel-to-wheel contact off onto the grass. Goes Skillicorn. I think Arnell, out of courtesy, is going to try and let him have it and stay in front for the moment. But the trouble is, both of them are going to sort this out quick enough to try and resume their battle without letting Blair McConaughey into the mix, because he's right there now. In fact, he's too late to not let him in the mix. He's right there to get into a tow, and they're going to be side by side up the hill. Now, which route does McConaughey take? Does he take the inside line to try and follow Skillicorn through, which it looks like he's doing? Does he go to the outside and try and take the optimal racing line to get the undercut on these two if they run wide? He's compromised on the exit because Skillicorn had to check up, as he knew he couldn't get past Arnell on the exit. Now through Chris Curve, they go, the three of them all together. McConaughey just out wide when he keeps it off the grass, and now they come up towards the end of Chris Curve into the gooseneck. All three of them together. And they have to come out there. So Arnell back in front once again. So the advantage that Chris Skillicorn had has now been taken away once more. And now that McConaughey in the mix now, with only 3 3/4 minutes to go, this has become quite a different dynamic in this fight. Where it was a one-on-one, now it's a three-way dance for the position. McConaughey then trying to use all of his real-world racing experience to try and find and look up the inside of Skillicorn, but couldn't quite do it there. Over the crest, Arnell, and now that he's free, it looks like, whilst those two are scrapping behind, he's now starting to edge away in 5th position into a top 5 spot, so that seems to be working out for him pretty well. It's not too far away between Parker and McEwing, as we saw on screen there, for a 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and behind them there's that other battle going on with Lang and Costa. So everywhere you look, Chris, in these last couple of minutes of the race, it's come alive here with battles left, right and centre. Yeah,
all the drivers we're looking at now, got some good sim racing, and the three in front got some good real world racing experience there. They know what they're doing, and you can tell there was absolutely nowhere for McConaughey to go, was there? You could see from that helicopter view that you could go left and right. There was just cars blocking at every single point. Arnell doing in through turn 1 just like we asked them to do, which is if you do make contact with someone and cause them to lose track, and it's your fault, then do give that place back. And he did just about enough, didn't he? He did a bit of a Verstappen move, just let him go, but then obviously used the toe coming up into Park Bend to actually make the most of that. But then Skillicon had to defend from behind. We've got behind a spinner. I'm not sure who that was spinning in the background. Looks like it was Henderson. So unfortunately, he was having...
And Willis.
And Willis, so it looks like they've had a bit of a coming together, because it looked like Tom Willis there was waiting for Henderson to rejoin. So unfortunately, Willis had caught up that gap to Henderson, but it looks like those cars now have had some problems on there, and basically they're trying to reshuffle themselves, and maybe there's some damage there as well.
And the ultimate beneficiary from that, Petersen, he's up to P10 now as a result of that, keeping it clean and tidy. Meanwhile, up at the front, we haven't really talked about this man, because nothing to talk about him, with all due respect, because he's got into the lead, and he's up by 11.5 seconds, and what more else can you say, really? He's just been that dominant, and whenever he jumps into one of these virtual occasions in a caterhamracer.com server, he just does just have churny things, which is turn up, get pole position, get a good start, dominate, and in about a minute and a half's time, win yet another race, and it will book his guaranteed spot in the grand final in a few weeks' time by taking that victory. Second and third still relatively unsettled. Jensen Hassler is ahead by about 4.5 seconds, but for everyone else below, best of the rest from fourth downwards, it's still anyone's guess, particularly with these four. It looks like Arnell is there in fifth position, but it only takes one mistake from someone at Skillicon, for example, that brings McConaughey back into play, and then these two, who are, despite their hard battling, are still going at full chat behind them to catch up. If Skillicon does make a mistake in the next minute or so, it could be a four-way scrap for sixth position.
I mean, mistakes happen all the time, as we've already seen, and you want to be in the best of the rest position wherever that is down the grid to see what you can get done. It looks like Costas might well have a run on coming up the hill here. He's gone side by side into Park Bend. He's on the outside, so that's not the ideal, and it looks like John Lang might be able to hold on, but he's just, to squeeze him out. So that's, again, very good. John Lang is putting on a very, very good defensive show. He has drifted a little bit wide out there, but he just has the momentum to hold on and hang on in there.
Up now through the gooseneck once again. These two still going at it, hammer and tongs. Again, they're both run wide, and Costas might have gone a little bit opportunistic into Mansfield, but he starts to hold back again, and once more takes that tighter, tidier line. Lang's not... He's not afraid, maybe not on purposely or not, he's not afraid to go a little bit wide on some of these corners and take a different line. He's been forced to go really defensive on the inside. You can tell he's not comfortable on the racing line because he knows the Costas all over him as they come up through the mountain. Over the crest they go, leaping across, and Costas gets a good run. He's side by side with the Hawk Bays. You're going to have to sort this out before you turn in. They're still side by side, but Lang surrenders initially, in fact, then tries to come back into the first part of the Hawk Bays. They leap over the crest into the hairpin. Costas locks up, but somehow gets it stopped and holds on. And meanwhile, Jaroslav Cherny in front has gone to his final lap of the race. We'll come on to that in a second. And there is Jaroslav. In fact, he's already out of Charlie's and now up Park Straight towards Park Bend. But down the straight they go, and up through Coppice for the final time come our battle for 5th, 6th and 7th. There is Costas and Lang. They're going to turn in now through the left-hander, and look how quick they're shooting through. Up through the right-hander at Coppice, and now back into Charlie, this double apex right-hander of Charlie's. Now they come on to Park Straight again. There's another chance here Lang to try and get him back here as they come up the straight, up towards the top of the hill, and the right-hander to a Park Curve. Here's on board with John Lang. He is inside the half-second margin to get that slipstream, which he does. Doesn't close as much as he wants to. Into the right-hander, Mitch Costas wasn't that confident in the racing line. He drifts wide. This puts Lang right on his gearbox again as they turn back through Chris Curve. I know we're going to have to, not yet, have to switch back to
I'm just checking where he is.
Yeah. Just checking where he was. Just over the mountain he goes. There's our leader. Second for Hassler, third for Skillicorn. That was sixth for McConaughey and Skillicorn. With Skillicorn in sixth, but these two still going after. This might be a battle that we watch almost towards the end. We're going to have to cut away in a second because this man, what can you say? Turns up, drives, dominates, and then leaves. He's out on the final corner, up to the pit straight. We've been here before, but it's not surprising that Jaroslav Cherny is that dominant. He comes to the checkered flag and easily wins Heat 2 of the caterhamracer.com Season 7 2022 Winter Warmer. And now we wait, because the rest of the competition is about to come through. Second place will come Jensen Hassler. He's our second guaranteed graduate. And thanks for Andy Parker. He will also get a guaranteed spot too. Despite all of his shenanigans, he will get a guaranteed spot, and he's delighted with that, and rightfully so. Tom McEwen takes fourth, best of the rest. It's fifth for Sullivan else, sixth for Skillicorn, just ahead of their McConaughey, and Costas and Lang will come across the line. Lang darts out, but it's too late. It's going to be eighth for Costas, ninth for Lang, and then a little bit further back now is Jamie Petersen, some 13 seconds back. Here he is at the final corner, but he's under threat from, well, he was under threat from Paul Bernard, who loses it on the final corner. So JP Zenith is 10th, and it's 11th place of Max Burge, who snatches it on the line. So a bit over exuberance there from Paul Fernhoff, puts him down to 12th at the flag, Larby 13th, and then Stephen Henderson, after his contact with Tom Willis, finishes 14th place, and Tom Willis looks like he pitted in the last stage, which means that it was Henderson, the last car across the line. And breathe, everyone. That was quite an intense 25 minutes at Cadwell Park. But it turns out that the top three who automatically progressed to the grand final are Jaroslav Cherny with a dominant win of 13.1 seconds. That's quite un-Caterham-like in the real world, but in caterhamracer.com, that's what we expect from someone like Jaroslav. He wins by quite a margin. Then it is Jensen Hassler who wins in second place. And Andy Parker will be absolutely thrilled that his work to get to the grand final is guaranteed and done already. Doesn't matter how you do it. If you get a guaranteed spot, you're in, and that's third place for him. Fourth for Tom McEwing, fifth for Steve Arnell, who was one of many drivers that had plenty of antics across the evening. Sixth for Chris Skillicorn. Seventh for Len McConaughey, eighth for Mitchell Costas after his several entertaining moments, beating John Langton, eighth position. Lang was ninth. JP Zenith, again, despite the injury to his ankle, still 10th and keeping his nose out of trouble. Good drive, Jamie. Well done. 11th place for Max Burgess on his broadcast debut. Paul Fernhoff 12th. Then Matt Larby, Stephen Henderson, and then Tom Willis looks like he didn't complete the last couple of laps, possibly due to damage he might have suffered in the last collision towards the end. With Stephen Henderson, and then we lost both James Fowler and Alan Curtis early on, presumably with duty incidents early in the race. Well, that's given us plenty to talk about, hasn't it, Chris? There was certainly a lot of action going up and down the field, which is what we'd like to see, though, rather than just a simple procession and not that many overtakes. Plenty of action, plenty of passing, plenty of mishaps and overtakes. Definitely what the kind of race you want. Might not have been the circuit we expected it to happen, but Cadwell Park surprisingly delivering when typically it's supposed to be quite hard to pass and not that energetic.
Yeah, the action. I mean, like you say, whilst the top three, they had a few moments early on, but actually relatively calm from about halfway on. It really wasn't calm anywhere else, was it? And it was that brilliant to watch, I'm sure, and I really hope that Mitchell and John Lang really enjoyed that race, because it was certainly entertaining for us to be a part of. And that midfield battle with Arnell and Skillicorn and McEwing going at it, with Blair just sort of coming, just about clinging on in there was really great for the whole of that race. So well done to all the drivers.
Excellent stuff, including our three newcomers for tonight. Of course, that was Matt Larby, Stephen Henderson and Max Burgess, all just about making it home in relatively one piece, and excellent stuff for them involved. And I think, as it usually is, it's time to have a wander down pit lane and put your Martin Brundle hat on and have a chat to some of the drivers who had a good or maybe not so good race, depending on their fortunes. So once again, off you go, and let's see who's around and got us in the comm box to have a chat about their evening's events. So off you go, Chris. It's the floor is all yours again.
I was just about to say, we almost got Cherny. We almost got it. He's just now disappeared off. He doesn't often talk. In fact, he's back. So I'm going to see whether we can get Yaroslav to give us a shout in the commentary box. Give us a second. Let me just...
A rare privilege, if so.
Cherny, have you got us in the commentary box? Are you going to talk to me? We'll have to assume that he hasn't got a connection. It's a rare thing to hear from him, but we swear he's actually a robot, and that's why he doesn't talk very often. But he's brilliant anyway. And let's see whether we have got Jensen Hassler. So, Jensen, have you got us in the commentary box?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, brilliant. I'm kind of after the early couple of laps where you had to put on a fantastic defensive, manoeuvres, as I would say. It's a one continuous set of defensive laps, one after the other. You kind of then got a gap and settled in.
I wouldn't say settle in. It was all over the place. Like I said to you before, it's all guesswork. That fact, it's shut your eyes and hope for the best.
Especially over some of those jumps, and you just never know where you're going to land. Right? It's quite the one, and every single corner is an adventure.
I think Parker and it's about a matter of mistakes. I think he was slightly quicker than me, but he made more, and I think he settled for third in the end by the looks of it.
Yeah, we're just about to have a chat to Andrew, and it certainly looked like he enjoyed using the grass as well as the track on a number of occasions, and like you say, you managed to keep it on the grey stuff a bit more.
I was relieved when I saw him sideways in the
but that is your qualification spot gained for the final. So are you going to still join in? It's obviously good to keep your eye in.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll see you next time out then, and well done tonight.
And thanks for putting it on.
Yeah, no problem.
As usual.
Okay, let's get it. Andrew Parker. Mr. Parker, have you got us in the commentary box?
Good evening, Christopher.
Now then, so we say often that it's never knowingly a boring thing to watch you on track, and tonight it's sort of more of the same. But you actually clung on to that third place, and that means you qualified.
Yes, I'm wondering what you guys are going to talk about for the rest of the season, to be honest.
Well, obviously you are our main form of talking point, but hopefully you'll join us to give your unique entertainment. But it actually, I mean, it is a difficult track to maintain, especially with 25 minutes. You must be fairly exhausted.
Yeah, it's you can make a mistake on every corner. There's not a kind of bagged corner on the whole track, which kind of is testament to what Journey did tonight, because he was just consistent all the way around. Had a couple of laps which cost me a couple of seconds, but it was a relatively easy third in the end, which is a pleasurable difference to my trials and tribulations of normal.
Sometimes being that far, just having that nice gap at halfway distance is actually, it makes the rest of the race feel quite a long way away. And I'm guessing it was a bit of nerve-wracking time waiting to not make a mistake, I guess.
Yeah, well, about 5 minutes left. I thought, okay, well, this is an easy third. Let's just ease off. And then suddenly it was 2 seconds a lap slower. And I was like, well, that's not quite easing off. That's stopping.
You also had an issue. I don't know about it was halfway through. You were 2 seconds ahead, and then suddenly Chris Gillicorn was right on your tail again. I don't know if you'd had an issue at the end of Hall Bends.
Yeah, I think just for the mountain, it went a bit dancing on ice, and managed to keep it pointing roughly the right direction. But yeah, it cost you a bit of time, because once you lose your momentum in that bend, you're done for.
Well, there you go. You landed your triple Salco, so onwards, ever onwards. Okay, we will see you at the next one, and congratulations on your qualifying spot.
Cheers. Good night, chaps.
Okay, I think we'll call it at that point. But yeah, what an evening's racing. I've just heard from Alan Curtis that his car gave himself a jump start, whether it was self-imposed or a bit of lag spike, we're not sure. And unfortunately, this track doesn't allow you to clear your jump start, so that's why he had to pull out of the race early doors, unfortunately.
Unfortunate, but I know he and many others will be back for next week's antics to try and get another qualifying spot. But yeah, speaking of next week, of course, we have to quickly touch on, of course, where we're going to be heading for the next rounds, of course, for Season 3, and it will be Knock Hills. Of course, the likes of Stephen Henderson and Blair McCulloch and co will be heading home, virtually, of course, for the clockwise, as in the regular direction, if you like, because, of course, for Knock Hill, it is licensed to run in both directions. So we say clockwise because that is the traditionally correct or right way round, shall we say, because the regular direction. So that is same time next week, and of course we've still got Steston for our 4th qualifier race, and those will decide another 6 official automatic qualifiers. And again, as a reminder, it will be the last chance saloon race at Croft. That will be for our final 6 qualifiers from all those that haven't managed to get through. And then we'll have, of course, our grand final, which is the circuit course to be determined, either Alton Park or Anglesey Coastal, depending on which the drivers choose, because we are putting it in the hands of the drivers to vote where they want to race for the finale. But of course, it'll be them. That'll be on the 1st of March, and then in about a month and a bit's time, it will be after the finale, gearing up for the first round of the Caterham Motorsport season, which will take place at, I can get this right, and otherwise necessarily really bad, Snetterton, I believe it is. So Snetterton is where it's going to be. If I've got that wrong, I'm probably going to be shot, but there you go. The season starts in April, so we're getting up there. But the good thing is, it looks as though that, particularly as a final word, Chris, the fact that now the first two races are in, both our new and existing drivers are already getting used to this car, and they're getting back into the rhythm of racing, not just in real life, but hopefully in the virtual world as well. It's getting to the point now where we're getting to everyone's starting to get a little bit amped up now, even a little bit impatient in some cases to get going, because the racing season, there's plenty to be excited about on several fronts, and I think this year is going to be quite special, not just in the our world here in caterhamracer.com, but in the real one as well. There seems to be quite a lot shaping up, particularly in club motorsport and across BRCC and others, where it's going to be quite exciting, including what we've got going on here.
Yeah, motorsports, there's quite a lot of waiting that you have to do, isn't there? And then the off season just feels that the distance is just too far. And yeah, you're right, we're all getting thirsty and hungry for our new fix of real-world motorsport. And in the meantime, like, we are getting ourselves back up to speed in the sim world, and you know, my Facebook feed's now full of people out there testing, which again I'm a little bit jealous about. But you know, good luck to all the drivers this year, and yep, we will be following the main Caterham Motorsport season through. So if it is Stetted we're going to start up, that'll happen sort of maybe a few weeks after the end of this season is when we'll get going with that new season. But yeah, congratulations to all the drivers tonight, and like you say, we saw some new names on the server, and there are still yet more new names to introduce you to. So as soon as they start getting up to speed, they may get onto the A grid, and then we'll see them on the broadcast. But we've also had the interest from existing and new 310 and drivers, plus, you know, new to Caterham, and we see Matt Larby here getting practicing for his academy season, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on. It's certainly good practice, because all of the psychology, all of the you know, the overtaking opportunities and the driving is near enough that it is really good practice and gets your brain in the right space it needs to be for the start of the season.
Yeah, both as drivers, I guess, and also as commentators as well, because of course it's a good warm up for us until once the racing season gets underway. So that's another caterhamracer.com broadcast completed. Thank you for those who are watching either live or watching this back on its after it's been pre-recorded and put up after its live broadcast is finished. Again, join us once again this time next week, of course, for our run at Knockhill. But for myself, Scott Woodwiss, and Chris Hutchinson, and all of us here at caterhamracer.com, thank you for watching, thanks for participating, and we'll see you for more action next week in virtual Scotland. But until then, bye for now.
Ta-da.